Well, so now we have Clare Lee,
Yeah.
right, from the Open University. How can the learning relationships that work to develop mathematical resilience in mathematics classrooms be characterized? So I'm putting your presentation. He put it, I think, in the download. It's not there.
It is at the top.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So if I come back, only go back and then we do that.
Right, probably go wrong. Okay. Now, what I want to talk about is what we do in the classroom. I don't want to talk about developing maths anxiety because I don't want anybody to do that. But I do understand that maths itself can create the anxiety. You don't have to try. Maths can be fiendish. But we need to work to support. But what I want to do is to do what various people have spoken to me about over this whole week's conference, is to begin to characterize the kind of learning relationships that should be set up such that maths resilience is developed. Because it's only by going with a fairly simple explanation of what is a massively complex undertaking that we can begin to persuade people to pay attention and to require this in teaching worldwide. So I'm going to press a button. If something happens, that'll be good. Oh, excellent. Right. Now, there's lots of things we know about maths resilience, thankfully, over the last 14 years we've been working at it. We found out that there are definitely 4 factors involved in when teaching maths with the intention to build resilience. We have to have a growth theory of learning and to demonstrate that in what we say, what we think, what we do. We need to understand the value of the people that we're speaking to and understand the value of maths. There's loads in that value statement. It's huge and complex, but it's about understanding that what we are doing is valuable and the people we are working with are valuable. There's a requirement to remember that learning maths is not easy. As we've spent far too long, and I remember doing it myself, and if I could go back, I would change it. Then they're saying, oh, just remember to turn it upside down and multiply. I never said that. I never said that. But I do remember saying, just remember this process and it'll be easy. And it never is, because remembering the process requires you to understand the process. And that's a struggle. You've got to struggle through the cornfield to flatten it out. But the more that you struggle through the cornfield, the more the path becomes easy to navigate. And that's why we developed the comfort zone in our model, growth zone model, to not deny that struggle, but to help people understand that they don't have to struggle all the time. That by going through that struggle, I like the idea of trampling things down. By going through that process, you then develop the fluency that allows you to go further, to go through an even more bramble-strewn area and still struggle through and make progress. And the fourth one is vital. Everyone needs support, as I said earlier in response to Holly's presentation, interesting presentation. The more that teachers feel supported by one another, the more they're going to grow their resilience, the more people, and the more likely they are to work with their students in ways that provide the support that those students need. So I spent ages on the first one. The second one is also vital, and it's really important that what we know about maths resilience is that it's a way of thinking. It's not a to-do list. It's not do this, do this, do this, you've got resilience. No, you haven't, because it's a way of thinking, it's a way of caring, a way of teaching with compassion, a way of caring enough about maths that you want people to engage with it and to grow their understanding of it. It's a way of, it's possibly a set of principles. I think I could come up with some principles that would be vital, but I'm very willing to argue about what it actually is. It's certainly not a to-do list, and it's not a to-don't list. It doesn't matter what. I really don't like the idea of Kahoot. I really don't, Holly. But then you gave me an example of how you used it, and I'm going, yes, that's fine. Yeah, it's never a to-don't list. If you're using the ideas of maths resilience with the right attitude, the idea of care and compassion and so on, then practically anything, worksheets, whatever, are fine if you use them in the right way. So it's definitely about ensuring the well-being of all actors in the classroom. And I'm with you, Holly, that happiness doesn't express it well, but I want everybody to feel content and to be comfortable within the classroom environment, and that includes the teacher, who's often the one that's being judged, the one that's being observed, the one that just doesn't want to be, can I please hide? and that's not good. And that's no way to get teachers to work for the well-being of their students either. Right, so learners, we know about maths resilience that learners must understand learning maths can present barriers because of its nature, not because of whether they can or they can't. They can, they definitely can. But it is symbolic, it is abstract, it is all the things that is difficult to engage with. It's complex, just like every job that we do. And I also know that working for maths resilience in an ordinary classroom is not an easy or straightforward thing to do. It's possible, but it's not easy or straightforward. And whether Ofsted would understand it, I don't know. It's not easy enough for the average Ofsted inspector. But maybe we could set out some principles that they could work with. Who knows? We'd like to. Okay. Relationship building is the most foundational element for social, emotional, and academic success in the classroom. It's that simple. And those teachers who do teach for maths resilience have demonstrated that very clearly. So I have some questions. What I'm trying to do is to work out a proposal for a big research funded exercise, to make people take this idea really seriously. But to do that, I've got questions. Right. So the teachers who do teach for maths resilience have shown us that the relationships in the classroom have to change. There has to be a sense of equality in the classroom. It's the teacher's job to teach, it's the learner's job to learn. And we must all do our job well, and there must be consequences if we don't. I don't want any of these teachers. I used to work with a teacher who boasted that he planned his lessons as he walked across the threshold. I want him out. It's a hard job teaching. There must be consequences if we don't do our job well. But they mustn't, but that must be, the consequence should normally be support and discussion and working together, not out. So so my question is, how do teachers establish that sense of reciprocal responsibility and equity? It's not an easy job, but teachers do it. How can we do it? How can we characterize what they do? There must be mutual respect, we know that. The teacher and the learner must respect one another. And I think that teachers respecting their learners is probably the first and most important way to model that kind of behaviour. Respect must be unconditional. We must respect each other's values and point of view. But how can that be done? It's easy to say, you must respect one another. But how do I respect year 9 on a Friday? They're 13, 14-year-olds on a Friday afternoon who are as tired as I am, and I'm feeling a bit crutchy, and so are they. How do we demonstrate respect for one another? It's not easy. Okay, and then we also know that it must be a dialogic classroom. In the Alexander way, everyone must have a voice. The right to ask questions must be established, but also everyone must be listened to. And again, bearing in mind the first 2 points, the teachers must be listened to, the students must be listened to. And then my question is, how is active listening established? And how are the reluctant given a voice? Because that's not straightforward either. So building more relationships is it's about more than understanding others. It's about making people feel understood. Got too many quotes, sorry. Okay, more questions. And this time it's thinking about maths itself. The way maths teaching is understood must change. Maths must be taught with care, with compassion, and it must be taught for understanding, not just for exam success, which means both the teacher and the learner's relationship with maths must change. Learners must cease to feel that they must have loads of ticks on the page or they're not doing well. I really think one question is quite enough for a whole lesson if we're really exploring and if it's a really good question. And it's important that things are not just memorised. But how that can be done must be explained better, I think. I think we must work on that. Teachers must see both offering and receiving support as good because it deepens understanding, and we know that it does. And they must not think in terms of coverage. But how can that be spread more widely? Teachers can't be expected to produce challenging maths tasks and activities quickly and easily for every lesson. I mean, they teach too much, too often, too long, they're too exhausted, they can't be thinking them up. Enrich contains stuff, but it's not always easy to find exactly. There must be more support in producing those kinds of challenging maths tasks and activities, I think. You might disagree with me. So it's the little conversations that build the relationships and make an impact on each student. But if teachers are not working for a learning relationship of growth, value, study and support, the little conversations won't be right. That's all I know. Right, so my question to you in the last 5 minutes of the presentation is, am I asking the right questions? Am I looking in the right places? Should I be looking somewhere else? What should I do with the answers if and when I'm unable to get any? Over to you, please.